Hey, how's it going, fight fans? Welcome to Mind for Combat. If you're new to this channel, my name's Rohan, and in this video I'm going to be talking about One Championship's former champ and probably the biggest star in their promotion, Aung La N'Sang. Now, Aung La N'Sang, if you didn't know, was a former middleweight, which is 205 in One Championship, and light heavyweight, 225 in One Championship, world champion. He held the belt simultaneously, and for One Championship, he was probably the biggest star they had in their promotion. He used to generate massive numbers for the promotion. He was selling out arenas. He's a Myanmar superstar, and recently he's struggled across some hard times. And what makes it particularly challenging is that he's lost not one but both of his belts to the same gentleman in Renier de Riddio, the Dutch fighter who's an incredible fighter. I actually done a video on how he does in the UFC. Check that one out if you're new to the channel. But Aung La N'Sang is facing tough times, and for the first time in his career, or One Championship career, he's coming off back-to-back losses, both to the same guy in two different divisions. There's no clear path for him. Aung La N'Sang, for some context, is 35 years old, has a professional record of 25 wins and 12 losses, and has been fighting for a long time. He's the type of fighter that's a fan favorite brawler that puts on exciting performances. He doesn't necessarily fight the smartest way, but the way his style is designed is to please the fans, have wars, put guys out, and that's what he enjoys doing. Now, he trains with a lot of great fighters, and he could have, had he had the time, prepared and developed his wrestling in a way. But this is where this gets interesting. Now, let's talk about this in an organized manner. So firstly, yes, he's got back-to-back losses. He's now got 12 losses on his resume. But as we know with Nate Diaz, as we know with Nick Diaz, as we know with Jorge Masvidal, and with some fighters, the amount of losses you have on your record doesn't necessarily take away from your star power. Nate Diaz is one of UFC's biggest stars, and he's got 12 losses at the point of the recording of this video, which is also the day of the Leon Edwards fight, so let's see how that one goes. But we know that losses don't necessarily take away from your star power, and from all indicators, from everything that One Championship been putting up about him and the numbers that he continues to generate, he still has that star power. So it's not like his star power has diminished, because it's not like he's an international sensation like Conor McGregor that's made his name based on being braggadocious and loud, out there, confident, cocky fighter. No, he's a martial artist that's a superstar in his native Myanmar, and that's where most of his traction comes from. So that hasn't gone. He's their biggest star, he's their biggest fighter, and that remains the same. So in that way, he's secure, right? He's not necessarily got a path to the title in either division now, because he holds 2 losses to the guy that holds titles in both those divisions, and they're both recent. He's also 35 years old, so he doesn't have a ton of time. Right, so if in that way you say to yourself, all right, well, Aung La N'Sang hasn't got a true path to a world championship right now, well, then you also have to understand that, well, although he doesn't have a path to the championship right now, he does have a path to the championship if he was to pause for a moment and look at what he needs to do, which is to rebuild himself. He needs to rebuild himself, and One Championship has a ton of fighters. I must admit, 205 onwards, even 185 onwards, the depth isn't there. Right, so that kind of adds to what I'm talking about. He's going to be able to fight fighters that are not really on his level, and that's not a bad thing when you're coming off losses and you're trying to rebuild yourself. That's one thing that boxing does. That thing's all right. I don't think that there was a need for Tyron Woodley to be fighting Vicente Luque after a 3-fight losing streak, for example. I thought there was better ways to handle a near 40-year-old former world champion. But I think Aung La N'Sang can rebuild himself by fighting fighters that are, around, competing in One Championship, that have respectable records. Maybe a couple of the guys like 12-5 guys that I've seen fighting on their promotion, guys like Ken Hasagawa, people like that are respected, talented fighters that are not world class, that will help him shine because he's got a stand-up friendly style. So not putting him in there with a decorated wrestler. I've seen a lot of people talking about him jumping up a 3rd division because he knocked out Brandon Vera and fighting Arjun Singh Bulla, which I think is a terrible decision, because if you saw the way he lost to Renier de Riddio, Arjun Singh Bulla, being a bigger, stronger wrestler, would do exactly that, take him down and dominate him. There'll be no question there that that's exactly how it would happen. So I think it's very important to note that Aung La N'Sang needs to stay put in his divisions. He needs to start rebuilding himself. As he rebuilds himself and rebuilds his star power, as I mentioned, he trains with great fighters like Kamaru Usman, Michael Chandler, with all these great fighters. I believe trains with Rumble Johnson as well, that have wrestling backgrounds that he can actually learn from and start to develop that into his game some more. Now, he's 35 years old, but he has still got some scope for growth. With the opportunity for growth and development and rebuilding his name, if Renier de Ridiers are still around, he can go for a trilogy fight and he can try to secure that belt. Now, he's always going to be a superstar, but maybe another option is going to be to start having some fun cross-promotional fights. Now, that's kind of the point of this video. I think that there's a lot of cross-promotional opportunities that are around for promotions like One Championship. Ryzen done, the Takeoji Horiguchi versus Damian Caldwell fights a couple of times for both the titles, which I thought was incredible. I really enjoyed that, and I really hope that more of that stuff happens. But a fight between someone like Aung La N'Sang and someone over in the Bellator side of things, Aung La N'Sang versus Lyoto Machida, is such an appetizing fight for me. That would be so fun. I think that would bring a lot of traction, a lot of attention. It'll be really, really fun. Even someone like Liam McGarry, these are striking type of fighters that he will shine against. Guys that are also older, that are also former world champions, that also have name recognition. If we was to match them up with a One Championship versus Bellator card, that will gain massive traction, particularly in Asia. And that's what I want to start seeing more for these promotions. Actually, the point of this video is almost more to kind of promote cross-promotion in MMA more so than it is about Aung La N'Sang. Aung La N'Sang's a great fighter. I'm a huge fan of his, and I really look forward to seeing him continue to fight. But I don't think I've seen a lot of narrative on the forums and boards and on the One Championship comment section that he's done, he's finished, he's washed up. That's not necessarily the case. Losses does not define a fighter, and nor does the fact that he's 35 years old. He's still got path to redevelop, and if the correct strategy is employed, there can be some huge mega fights for him if he goes to sort of Rich Franklin route that he went later on in his career, main eventing against guys like Chuck Liddell, Dan Henderson, Forrest Griffin, guys like that were big names but weren't necessarily world champions anymore, that drew a lot of attention. Those were fun fights, some of my favorite fights to remember, and I think there could be a lot of fun to be had with a guy like Aung La N'Sang. I think the cross-promotional opportunities are there, and a lot of fights that are very appetizing. Like I mentioned, Liam McGarry, Lyoto Machida are two names that popped in my mind straight away. I think it'll be really, really fun to see that, and it's what I'm hoping happens. What will happen, I don't know. I don't understand MMA like that sometimes. It's a very, very dynamic and changing environment, mixed martial arts, so you can't really predict it like that. But it's really fun to think about. Anyways, comment below what you think he should do next. Comment below if you think he's done, finished, washed up, and he should hang it up. And comment below if you like the video. If you like the video, I'll do more stuff like this. And I've got a couple of breakdowns coming up for you, a couple of fantasy breakdowns. I got requested to do a breakdown on Kamaru Usman versus George St. Pierre. I'm going to work on that. I'll probably get that up next week. Now at this point, because I'm just so busy in my personal life that I don't have time to shoot amount of videos that I would want. But anyways, the channel's struggling, so I really appreciate your support. If you're new here, remember to like the video, subscribe, share out the video to your friends and family who are into MMA. Maybe they'll subscribe to the channel, show some support as well. Much needed. Thank you for watching. I'm Rohan, and this is Mindforcombat.